Thank you very much, and it's good to be with you. I'm also pleased to follow the Attorney General, who I have so much pride in. I am pleased that he is our Attorney General. You know, I learned a long time ago that the length of your title is directly in proportional to your importance. Attorney General, important. Senator, important. President, important. So I'm pleased to be the Acting Assistant Secretary of the Administration for Children and Families of the Department of Health and Human Services. We are working very closely with the Attorney General on the issue of trafficking. And I think all of us have to recognize that there are too many victims out there. And while the Department of Justice aggressively pursues the trafficking perpetrator, it is important that we step in and provide the kind of services to the victims of those crimes. I believe that we can really solve the challenges facing us, but we have to do that together. Study after study shows that the many difficult issues that Americans face, the issues that they're grappling with every day, are disproportionately felt by Latin American citizens in this country. From the economy to health care, and particularly on immigration, these are issues that affect Latinos across the nation every day. 1 in 6 Americans is Latino. Latinos are becoming the largest minority group in this country. In less than 40 years, 1/3 of this country will be Latino. Approximately 133 million Americans, and they are from a range of places. They're Mexican, they're Puerto Rican, they're Cuban, Salvadorian, Guatemalan, Nicaraguan, and more. We need to work together to construct policies that really continue to show a national commitment to equality and fairness and access. We need to enact programs that give families the tools, the training, and the resources that they need. And what I've learned in the short period of time that I've been the Assistant Secretary is there are really 2 things that keep families and children vulnerable. It's access to health care and it's access to education. And today, the United Supreme Court guaranteed access to health care by upholding the Affordable Care Act. We know that the best way of lifting people out of poverty, to giving them economic self-security, is to provide that family with access to health care. Americans will no longer have to fight for that coverage. They will be given the kind of security to health care that they so desperately deserve. No longer can insurance companies cancel policies without notice. No longer can they deny coverage for pre-existing conditions. No longer can they charge women more than men. Preventive coverage like mammograms and the like will now be provided free of charge. And by August, rebates will be going to millions of Americans because of the excess administrative costs that insurance companies have put in place and because of bonuses to CEOs of those companies. And millions of young adults will now be able to stay on their family's policy until the age of 26. The court has made it clear there is no need now to refight old political battles. The time has come to implement. A sick man with no health insurance, no access to health care, cannot provide for his family. Nor can an uneducated woman pass the power of literacy on to her children. A family that has both, though, they have the hope of the American dream that they've heard so much about. can now dream that dream. And that's why the Affordable Care Act is so important. But the same thing goes with education at all levels. Education in this country, quite literally, is the key to economic success. With it, opportunities abound. Without it, doors are closed, and access to economic opportunity is doubtful. Today, 1 in every 5 students in our schools are Latino. And yet, just 13% of Latinos have obtained a bachelor's degree. That has got to be changed. And that's the reason that the president recently has said the children who grow up in this country, who know their whole lives that they're American, need to be allowed to stay. There is no longer a reason for someone to graduate from a Florida high school and all of a sudden told that she's going back to a land that she never knew and in many cases can't speak the language. Many of these young people study in our schools, they play in our neighborhoods, they pledge allegiance to our flag. They are Americans in their hearts and in their minds in every single way. They were brought up in this country by their parents. They were brought here sometimes as infants, and yet often they live under the threat of deportation to a country they know nothing about. It makes no sense to expel talented young people. Look around you. If you want to see the positive contributions that Latino scholars and Latino business people and Latino elected officials and community leaders have made to our communities. Look at the greatest cities in this country, from Miami to Los Angeles to New York to Orlando to San Antonio to Houston to Phoenix, all cities with large and thriving Latino communities. I was weaned on politics on Cuban coffee in West Tampa. I was associate dean at a small law school in Miami and saw Latino students really setting the bar, not only in passage, but in scoring on the bar exam. And here in Orlando, I've seen the contribution of the Puerto Rican community to the vibrant nature of this city. The richness brought to this state and this area is really imbued with Latino culture and with Latino leadership. This state and many others are more vibrant, more exciting places because of the Latino citizens that call them home. It is our diversity that makes us a better people, not our worse. As the economy begins to show signs of recovery, we need to make sure that those who get relief actually share in that recovery, those people who need it the most, especially those already working on the margins, who now make sure that they need food on their table, who perform the thousands of thankless, back-breaking jobs, but necessary jobs to keep the American economy running. That's why this administration is investing in everyone's future. As the president said to Latino elected and appointed officials just last week here in Orlando, hungry people, striving people, dreamers, risk takers, people don't come here looking for handouts. We are a nation of strivers and climbers and entrepreneurs, the hardest working people on the earth. And nobody personifies these American values, these American traits more than the Latino community. They are the essence of who we are. He's right, and that means that every dollar we invest has a high return. We're seeing that return in the programs at the Department of Health and Human Services. We're seeing that return in our programs that allow men and women the valuable training in the health professions. We're seeing that return in our programs that allow assistance dollars to be used to keep the lights on and the electricity whole. We've seen that investment as we focus on a better future. At the Administration for Children and Families, we want to work with you. We are committed to making the staff of our agency look like the face of America. Together, we're identifying ways for nonprofits in the Latino community to participate in our grant making and in our funding process. And thanks to Latino professionals within the agency, working with the Latino leadership throughout the country, we've begun to expand Head Start and other early childhood programs because we know that 80% of brain development occurs in the first 5 years of a child's age. But to solve all these things, we need your help and your input. As we move forward, I think it is also important that we think about children because they are our future. And if we really care about children, we must care about all children. And that's the reason that we've taken on an initiative with a task force within the agency to look at children of ICE detainees. The first principle is that children should be with their parents. We cannot continue to separate children solely because mom or dad might be undocumented. So the president is directing that prosecutorial discretion be used particularly on parents of children who live in this country. And we're committed to doing that. That's the reason we've gone to San Diego and Los Angeles and are on our way to North Carolina and Texas to really look at what's happening in ICE facilities, to really look at what's happening to these children, to guarantee that they have an opportunity to stay together as a family. And recently I traveled to South Texas and saw an increasing number of kids coming across the border from Guatemala and El Salvador and Honduras. It is a face of immigration that most Americans don't see. They often arrive victimized by the very people who transported them here to escape deplorable conditions, but more importantly, to escape the violence that's occurring. On the way, they've been subjected to all manner of physical, mental, and sexual abuse. I talked to a young 13-year-old boy who said that if he had not left Guatemala, he would be dead because he was unwilling to join one of two gangs. There was a woman there who was 15 years old, whose family had paid smugglers to bring her across the border for a better life. And she said that she came with a group of other young people. And one of the coyotes asked one of the girls how much money she had. She said she had $2. And he slit her throat. That's the kind of trauma that these kids have endured. And yet, I also saw in the faces of those kids and in their conversation an amazing sense of the optimism of youth. Because with everything that they had experienced, they still saw America as that shining city on a hill, as a place of opportunity. And when we really look at the history of this country, when we look at the Irish who came to this country because of a potato famine, or my ancestors from England who came here for religious freedom, America held its doors open. And we need to do that in a rational but directed way. And I think that that hope continues. Earlier this week, I sat down with about 100 migrant Head Start parents. They spoke of the backbreaking work that they did in the fields every day, 7 days a week, often 12 to 14-hour days. They spoke of taking their children with them to the fields because of the lack of child care. They spoke of the inherent fear of being stopped by local or state law enforcement, questioned, in some cases detained, solely because of the tint of their skin color. But they also spoke of their dreams and the dreams of their children. And I remember this one woman saying, "At first I had Mexican dreams. Now I have American dreams." And standing there, I was reminded of how blessed I am and you are, who've grown up in a good family with a good education in a free nation. And I'm also reminded as such that to those much has been given, much is expected. So in reality, I think those migrant Head Start parents are as American as I am, or you are. They traveled this country from the strawberry fields of my hometown of Plant City to the apple orchards of Oregon, really feeding America for years. I think John Kennedy put it best when he said, in the final analysis, we all live on this small planet. We all breathe the same air. We all cherish our children's future, and we are all mortal. This nation's rich cultural diversity was most evident at the 2008 Olympic Games in Beijing. During the opening ceremonies, Olympians from one country after another marched into the stadium, as with the parade of athletes. But in front of that U.S. team was its flag bearer, a young man who came to the United States just 8 years ago as one of the lost boys of the Sudan. Led by this 23-year-old who spent 10 years in a refugee camp in Kenya, the U.S. team was really a monument to diversity. And it was in stark contrast to other nations' representatives. You see, our athletes, like our people, have roots in every continent. They are proud of their own heritage, but they're also proud of their allegiance to their new nation. The strength of the Olympic team, like the strength of our nation, comes not in spite of our diversity, but because of it. It is our job to ensure that we can continue to encourage that diversity, not only in sports, but at every level of our society. We will stand with you in that effort. Congratulations, and thank you to LULAC. Thank you very much.